Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome back, saucers. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'm really, really excited about this episode and this conversation.
Yeah, we are really fortunate to have Tina and Hillary from the Muck Podcast, from the brilliant, the popular Muck Podcast, here to talk about kind of everything that's going on in Florida, but not just Florida, but red states in general, and like how to galvanize, how to remain positive, and like what to do with bills like the Don't Say Gay bill, or an an abortion ban that's going to be happening there any day now. So yeah, we just wanted to pick their brains. They were so they were the best when we had them on right before the 2020 election.
Yes, about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And, to have them back, and also if you guys, their podcast, if you haven't listened, they basically dig into the deep, dark secrets of politicians of our history. Doesn't matter what party, what side they're on. It just, they dig into basically true crime and politics combined in a juicy way. And I love it. But we welcome them back on to shed some light and give us some hope.
Yep. So without further ado, here is Tina and Hillary.
Hey! But
yes,
thank you for coming back. Welcome back. It's been a long time. It's been over a year, I think.
Almost 2
years.
Yeah, since the election.
God, yeah,
that was
right.
Good.
I feel
like we should have like battle wounds. Like we've just been through it. We should have like huge bags under our eyes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Don't get too close. But also, I was gonna say that we're mutual. I love this because it's like two or four women, like two running podcasts, and we're like mutual fans of each other's shows. And Alyssa and I always talk about your guys' show, but also having you back on. And obviously, the world has set us up for this to meet again, because the way things are set up.
Because I would say, I don't know if you would say, we're in the muck of it. So,
that is what we like to say. It's not a selling point at all. We always say that.
So I feel like it's perfect to have Tina and Hillary back on. But so before we get into it, I just want to say, like, for context's sake, because Tina and Hillary are from Florida. And we're going to be talking a lot about that and like red states in general. But for context of what's going on, if you're living under a rock or just want more info, at least 12 states have ceased nearly all abortion services now. The Guttmacher Institute, a reproductive health research and policy institute, lists Florida as one of the 26 states expected to ban abortions after Roe was overturned. A Florida law banning abortions after 15 weeks is back in place from last Tuesday, I believe, after a state court judge ruled that the law violated the state's constitution. The state then filed an appeal of the judge's decision, which automatically suspended the judge's decision under Florida law. So there's like the 15-week ban.
Yeah.
And then a couple Fridays ago, DeSantis Parental Rights and Education Act, aka the Don't Say Gay law, went into effect in Florida. In addition to banning any talk of gender identity and sexual orientation in kindergarten through third grade, it also prohibits such discussions all the way through high school, saying that the topics cannot be discussed in any grade in any manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate.
None of those terms are defined, right? Like,
no, right.
Like, I mean, we had a lot of conversations about like what the hell is like talked about in that bill, but we'll talk about that. First, I just kind of want to ask you guys, like, how are you doing? Like, how is the vibe? Like, how are you dealing with it? With all of these new things going, in place.
Go ahead, Tina.
It's frightening. From, I guess, the teacher, I'm, an educator. So from the teacher standpoint with the Don't Say Gay bill, it's really frustrating to understand the language of it, as a high school teacher, when it says, as you noted, that there is this age appropriate conversations, and what does age appropriate mean? So it's really unclear to me what I am allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say, what I can be held liable for, because now we can be sued, not as like a school, but as an individual person, I can be personally sued by a parent. So, and my husband's an educator. So it just is really stressful heading into this school year of how do we navigate it? How do I still make my students feel safe and that they can trust me? Because the other part of it is, if a student does say that they are gay to me, like I have to, like, essentially, like, teachers have to out these kids, which is
I mean,
a horrible
see,
thought, altogether. And then the idea of, like, how do I teach, I'm teaching The Great Gatsby, like, do I not talk about the underlying gay themes? If I'm talking about Baldwin, like, how do I not talk about queer, like, aspects of his literature? Like, no idea what to do.
It's like whole gaps. And then also, even because then it comes down being able to be personally sued on an individual basis by students' parents, basically, is like, I mean, this is kind of more elementary school, but I was thinking even high school teachers. My mom used to be an elementary school teacher, and I was just thinking, like, so a kid comes in and is talking about their two moms, right, in the classroom during free time or whatever. And then one kid says, well, Mrs. C, why does so-and-so have two moms? And then my mom as a teacher, even if she just says, well, they decided to, so-and-so's moms decided to get married, or I don't know, some families have two moms, anything they say. And then some other kid goes home and says, Mrs. C said that women can get married, lawsuit, if someone's that crazy, and people are. So I'm like, how are you supposed to navigate as an educator? Is there anything in place? Like, if someone goes crazy and sues you for something like that, or like you said, mentioning very critical points of Baldwin's literature, for example, which is like studied all over the world, and that's a massive part. Are there any things in place that you feel like you could actually fight back and win? It's a waste of time anyway, but I mean, is it just a loss no matter what?
I mean, so it just went into place in July, and so far we haven't really been given guidance yet as to, like, how we're supposed to navigate this in the fall. Or are there attorneys on retention somewhere that are gonna, pro bono and help us? Like, I have no idea.
Well, in Orange County, which is in Central Florida, they've already told teachers that are coming back, take down anything in your room that's like LGBTQ paraphernalia, rainbows, whatever, anything like that. If you have pictures of your family and you're married to someone who's the same sex, you need to take your pictures down. And it's all really the schools who are, and even the counties are trying to preemptive that these employees don't get in trouble, or because again, the law is so weirdly written that they're not even sure, like, if that's something they could get in trouble for.
And
you know
also,
what I mean?
you can't, but if you're obviously married to someone of the opposite sex, you can keep your photos up and you can talk about.
And it's not sexualizing anything.
Right.
That's
not okay. That's something that's not okay. Yeah.
Like, if you had an OnlyFans and you talked about your OnlyFans, that would be more protected, essentially, than talking about, like, Sally's two dads. Like,
what? I show my feet. Big deal. What's the big deal? And people give me money for it. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, more money than teaching, honestly.
For sure. I mean, my God.
It reminds me of, like, when we talked about the Don't Say Gay bill, maybe a few weeks, 3 weeks ago, episode,
it was
or a month ago. Our episode, because we air this on YouTube, got the most, like, it basically
comments,
but it's from, like, the right. Like, I don't know how they found us. I don't know how they found, but they were just trolling our comment section, and I was just like, thank you. So, first of all, thank you for the
I was gonna say, I would love that. Please come and leave all the shitty comments. Make us famous. Make me viral, bitch. I want to be famous.
Yeah, but it was so hard, and we don't even. Our main listeners aren't YouTube. Well, we get YouTube views, but that's not even our main thing. It's like Apple Podcasts or whatever, and we don't get a ton of interactions anyway on YouTube, like comment wise. And all of a sudden, it was just like ding, 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 and I was like, "What are the?" And I'm like,
so
"These people
many." And I
are
was
going
just
so
like,
out of their way.
and I mean, the title to that one was "What the fuck is happening in Florida?"
Well, that's right there. All the Florida
wake
men
up
are like,
every
wait, are they
day.
talking
Yeah.
about me?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wake up every day and say that, right,
That-
Tina? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah,
What
that
is
could-
happening?
That could have been my mistake. Oh, we'll have a different title for this. But still, like, we ended up on the wrong side of YouTube, but fine. Algorithm, thank you. But I just wanted to delete a lot of the comments because I didn't want, like, that energy. But there was even, like, one that I left, and it was, like, more neutral. And the question this person commented was, like, just, a genuine question. I'm not trying to be an asshole or anything, but why... what makes it appropriate to talk about homosexuality to a kindergartner? Like, honestly, like, that was like an earnest question. And I was gonna, like, I left it there because it was neutral, like, whatever, and I was gonna respond. But I just feel like I don't understand how to communicate. If that's your question, how do you effectively communicate, without being like, you dumbass? Like, what do you think? Like, I don't understand the difference. Like, exactly like you said, like, talking about The Great Gatsby, or talking about someone's two parents, like how that is all of a sudden deemed inappropriate. But we can joke about, oh, look, Billy has a crush on Sally. He just pulled her ponytail. Like, that's appropriate. I don't know. It just makes me so livid that I don't even want to communicate to them.
Well, the thing about the Don't Say Gay bill that is kind of goes to exactly what you're saying is like the question he wrote was homosexuality, right?
Yeah.
And when you add that sex word in there, it does sound like they're going to talk about sex. And basically what the bill, and even the person who coined it, Don't Say Gay, to really get like attention across the world, which he did when the guy who was against the bill, is that there's nothing in there that's about sexuality at all. It's just about not putting people back in the closet and saying that that being gay is okay. And it's not even like in kindergarten curriculum, but that's how the other side's trying to make it sound, right? Like they're going to teach about gay sex, because when they think about LGBTQ, that's all they think about is sex. They don't think about love, community, family. They think
humanity.
Sex.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Like that's what it's always about.
And that's where that language of like the grooming and all of this sort of dangerous rhetoric is kind of piggybacked off of that.
Right.
Everything.
It's just like it does. And the concept, even the concept of grooming. Okay, if people who say that, I'm like, do you feel like, were you groomed to be straight? Because you would say, no, that's just how I am. And where is this disconnect? I know we all agree on this. It's kind of like shouting into the whatever, preaching the choir. But I just am like, none of these arguments hold any weight, and yet they're holding weight in this country.
Right.
I mean, they can talk about, religion, kind of being the backbone there. There's so many people, in our Supreme Court that just doesn't want that separation of church and state, and they will lean onto that Bible to make any sort of point they want. Even if it's in bad faith. I mean, do you think that the wording, because right now the wording is vague, so it's like, do you think the wording will eventually get more specific, or do you I wonder like where this can go, because I just feel like this is just going to be a catastrophe.
Well, that's what I think it's going to do. It'll be those cases. It'll be a case where there's some kid who hears something, says to their parents, and they start to sue, and that's when when a judge has to look at a case and figure out that language, because it's very vague, and which is on purpose. It's on purpose to scare the shit out of everybody, and these poor teachers and anybody who's got to supervise them to try to keep them out of trouble so they don't get fired. That's what it's about, is just to scare people back into the closet, and we can't live like that. We're not doing that. It's not going to happen.
It's just like, to say the languaging of saying at an appropriate age. Well, I think that most parents who care about what their kids are doing think that, I'm not going to let my kid go to a formal dance until they're of appropriate age. Okay, well, a lot of parents deem that freshman year of high school. Some parents are like, well, you're not of appropriate age yet until senior year. Obviously, that is interpreted individually. All of that. So then it's like the judge.
The other thing is like Tina and I both have children that are like around 13 and 10, right? When my kids learned about gay, they were little. Right? What's gay? I go, it's when a man loves a man or a woman loves a woman. not for a second do I start to discuss sex with them. It's like,
Right.
even when you're talking to small children, that doesn't come into the conversation. They
Oh,
don't know
it's
what
just a
that is between a man
relationship.
and a woman. So it's like, it's so bizarre
Yeah,
to
you're
think
right.
that someone's teaching about homosexuality. It's literally just like, no, this is what a family can look like. Maybe it doesn't
Yeah.
look like your family, but it's also a family. Period. That's the end of
Exactly.
it. It's so, the way that they twist things and make people groomer. And we have friends on the school board in Broward County, and even friends who went in to testify in front of the school board about something, and groomer was yelled at them.
Right.
And it's so insanely insulting.
They love that
to
word
teachers
now.
and parents. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's disgusting.
I was seeing a lot of that at like pride parades, just like
Yeah.
people going and protesting them, calling them groomers. And it's like, I don't understand when that happened, when the right just started like taking like woke words or words that weren't in their vocabulary because they're not really thinking beyond themselves.
Mm.
Like, like,
Yeah, and
I
they
feel like
co-opt them.
Yes.
exactly. And like,
Ugh.
this,
Everything's been co-opted. The flag has been co-opted. If I
Ugh.
see a flag
Mm.
hanging, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah,
It's my
same.
country.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know,
we
what
were
if
talking
a
I
kid,
feel
about
the same
that.
way.
what if a
Yeah.
kid draws a rainbow? Like, can that be, you know what I mean? If
Who
like someone goes
knows?
home and be like, look what my friend drew me, and like that parent is like, well, that's gay, and I can't
Yeah.
stand for like.
Oh,
I
like
mean,
I logged on to Google today and I saw that it's Pride Month. What does that mean? Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Google's
yeah,
banned. Banned
Yeah.
Google.
Well, and then I also wonder, at the schools, there's the GSA, it's the Gay Straight Alliance, organizations. At every school that I've worked at has had a GSA.
mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah.
the GSA, maybe because it's a club and its students started, it can be permitted to stay, but like, am I allowed
Yeah.
to make an announcement that there's a GSA meeting after school? Like, and
Right.
then I say, oh, that's gay straight, and now I'm in like,
So many
ridiculous.
questions. And the thing, like you were saying, Hillary, it's really not about sex when you're
Mm-mm.
educated. We don't get sex education. That's another problem in
We
our
barely
country.
get
But we
regular
don't even.
sex education.
We're not even educated about sex in a straight relationship. We just are
Mm-mm.
told to like not get pregnant, and you might get pregnant at any moment, and don't.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all we're told. And so like where this all of a sudden it's a thing of like you're gonna shove this down their throat, you're gonna make them learn that we don't even learn anything about our own bodies. I didn't
Right.
know there were 4 phases to my own cycle until I was 28. So what are they? There's so
Yeah.
many problems.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the end game for this because fucking Clarence Thomas is now trying to, I mean, well, birth control, but also wasn't he talking about like anti-sodomy laws and bringing those
What?
back? Right? I'm not
Now I
making that
got
up.
a now I got a real problem.
Yeah,
Anti-sodomy laws.
Yeah,
He better.
like
I mean, honestly, he better watch out because his marriage is about to be revoked. He
Yeah.
goes down that path, and then you're
Hey.
married to a white woman. So
yeah,
Ridiculous. How is he still sitting up there? This is insane.
Right.
Yeah.
'cause they
Biden,
need
wake
the
up.
diversity.
Get
They
him
need the
out of there.
diversity. I
Impeach
know.
him. He needs
It's
to be
ridiculous.
impeached.
Yeah.
horrifying. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, so let's talk about that. Like, so Roe was overturned, what, 2 weeks ago now? 3 weeks ago? Time means nothing to me. But
It was like
you
I want to say around June 24th or so, something like
Mhm.
that. So
24.
recently.
Yeah. So 3 weeks. Yeah. Okay. So, and you live in Florida, as we've been talking about. Have you noticed in Broward County, like, have there been clinics closing that you've been noticing?
There aren't a lot of clinics already in Broward County, which is the bluest county in Florida. So that should give you some sort of idea. There's only a few,
Wow.
but there's some other ones around the state. But the state, from what we understand, the clinics that do exist here are over flooded with cases right now, especially because the states that we are near, because
Yeah.
I guess Florida's base has really always been a refuge state for abortions, believe it or
Yeah,
not. But we
believe
have,
it or not.
Really?
and now that because the states that are closest to us either don't have it or there's one clinic and they can't get to
Yeah.
it.
It's like a
And
Fort
it's-
Myers one, I think, is the one that's like, is it Fort
There's one in
Myers?
Fort Myers,
that's
which is
like
West
a
Florida.
really busy.
Is that Alabama? Like, a lot of Alabamans maybe go there, or Georgia?
Yes,
Texas.
people fly in even. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Yeah.
because there's so much, there's just
And
no.
you're just surrounded by all those states that like
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean,
Wow.
that's the main thing. I don't. I mean, Tina and I were talking about this last week. I just can't believe how the world's still spinning sometimes thinking about this news. Like that day, I felt like time stood still for me. I'm like, what is going on right now? And then Tina was mentioning like seeing friends posting stuff on Facebook, like it's just another day. And she's like, bro, we're in a battle.
Like women posting.
Yeah, it's wild.
This,
it's wild.
Like not even mentioning
like their brunch.
Like it's like we're in crisis mode, and we've been in crisis mode, and they're part of the problem.
It's just like this, and this is part of the whole like program. This is how it works: is that we're slowly but surely, and not very slowly, desensitized to all these things, all these like atrocities, all these like slaps in the face, whether it's people of color or women, we are all used to varying degrees, constant reminders that like you're not really shit here. You're really not that important. And it's like a little slap, and then a big slap, and then a little, and then you're right. And then when this happens, it's like, why are we all not just stopping and like, this is huge. This is not okay. And it's like, we're just it's like watching a lot of violent movies, and then you see someone get shot on the street and you're like, well, that sucks, but that happens. And it's like, that's where people are at now, it feels like.
They slowly chipped away at our rights. So that's what happened with Roe. Everything got sent back to the states to have to figure it out.
Yes.
So every session with abortion, since I was in high school, I won't tell you how long ago, but it was might be 20-something years. I remember then it was like they passed a law in the 90s here that women had to look at a picture. That was the first, right? Now we're gonna first you have to look at a picture of the baby.
Yes.
And unfortunately, some of these clinics that are here, people think are real clinics, and they're fake clinics.
We have
so they go in there and they show the picture of the baby. Like, what kind of a mother wouldn't want to look at the picture? Then the next session was like, the woman has to look at the picture. Like, because some clinics are like, look over there. Here's the picture of your baby, right? Yeah. Now it's, or the whatever.
And now there's like the waiting time.
So every session they chip and they chip and they chip. So by the time you get to now we're at 15 weeks, we know it's coming next session. It's happening. DeSantis has already said that he'll sign it, which he's going to get reelected. And so it's going to be banned. It'll be completely banned.
Yeah, like not even a 15-week. It'll be
literally brainwashing, or not even brainwashing, but this is like how they mentally, with prisoners of war, how they put them in the session after session and tell them. That really is that tactic.
100%.
And it goes just like with the Don't Say Gay bill. It's all about that rhetoric, right? Because even in those bills, they started removing language of fetus and replacing it with baby, and that changes how you view it, right? When you hear the word baby versus fetus. And so they've been doing this for a long time of shaping the narrative that this is a fully puppy, adorable baby when it's not.
Yeah. And the language, even this has always gotten me, like the fact that their side is called pro-life and ours is pro-choice, as a pro-choice or whatever, anti-choice, but it's not pro-life and pro-death, because that's what that indicates.
Right.
And it's that you indicate the opposite by what you call yourself. If there's two sides and we're called this, you must think that the other side is this. And if you're going to say you're pro-life, then it's like, okay, we're pro-quality of life. Because why is it this pro-life, pro-choice? We're not even fighting the same argument.
No,
really.
I mean,
we're not.
I mean, what's Florida's like maternity care like? And
not great.
Well, and the foster care system, I might be off on this, but I think it's like a huge, it's one of the largest in the United States of America. We have an overflowing foster care system. So these people that say, just put them up for adoptions. No one is we're already have a system, at least in this state, that is bursting at the seams.
Yeah.
Right. And because it's that idea, like once they're born, it's like they're nobody's problem anymore. Right. They don't care. And the other issue is sort of the longer lasting ramifications, because we have some good public universities here. University of Florida is a big public university. And there's been some sort of talk of that students not wanting to apply to colleges in states that have these restrictive bans, because as a young person, they're probably sexually active and they're probably as young women, like, well, I'm not going to go down to Florida,
I
right?
just got chills. I didn't even think about the
Me
college
neither.
aspect of
like
it.
the long-term effect of these things on our economy and like they're not thinking about that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
Right? They're
Not at
just
all.
playing this political game,
Yeah.
for points. It's stupid.
I mean, it is for points, and like economically, it really doesn't make sense. So don't tell me it's all about the money either, because it's not. It's power, and with the facade of morality. It's just like this. I don't know.
I mean, I just wonder what they're thinking with that. I think they're just thinking, well, the people that are going to go to these universities are going to be good Christians. You know what I mean? So only good Christians are going to come and be educated. So I feel like maybe these universities are no longer going to be these like lib, playgrounds, and it's going to be actually just overwrought and completely Christian. It's just going to be
there's going to be a lot of need for abortion then as well.
no matter what, there's going to be of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But not their babies.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if they do, they're going to fly them out to a state, you know what I mean? Like if it is,
Absolutely.
they're going to fly their kid out, because I'm sure if you can afford to send their kid to university, you could probably afford to send them to a state with a clinic that's working.
Well, and I read an article too recently that was about abortion providers talking about anti-abortion women who have come into their clinics to get abortion, and like holding the nurse's hand saying, you're going to hell, like while they're still like in this process of having an abortion. Like they can't separate it, like, and they somehow think that like they would have to be separated from like the waiting room, because they're like, I don't want to be with those women, like I'm not like that. So there's this disconnect,
Wow.
I am disgusted. And I said
holding the nurse's hand who's giving you the abortion you
it was either in the New Yorker, the New York Times, something like that I read recently, and I was like, what in the world? And it was from abortion doctors sort of giving this perspective of like, these women come and get abortions.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my
God.
And they don't leave with their mind opened up. They leave still thinking,
no. Yes,
I'm different.
Right. I'm different.
Oh
like,
my God.
I mean, it reminds me
I'm not like they are.
Yeah. It reminds me of, we have our friend Bailey, who's an activist and lobbyist and has worked with like Narrow Pro-Choice and stuff like that. And she has a mutual friend on Facebook that like has been posting all of this like pro-life, like, yay, like we're saving babies now. And Bailey's like, I know, she's had an abortion.
Oh my gosh.
But the girl doesn't call it an abortion.
What does she call it?
I don't know what she called it, but she doesn't call it an abortion. But the reason she got the abortion was because the baby had Down syndrome. Like, can you fucking believe being a good Christian girl having an abortion because your fucking child had Down syndrome?
I wish I remembered the term, because it was so ridiculous. It was basically this wasn't it, but it was as ridiculous as like, I didn't have an abortion, I terminated life. Like it wasn't that, but it was something. It was just like
some great euphemism.
Jesus.
I mean,
it's so.
She was like, I'm probably going to out her on Facebook. And
but like the way how warped that thinking is, those are the same women who vote for Trump and any other Republican thinking that they're doing the right thing, when they don't understand that those are the same people who are going to take away your fucking rights. But in some way, they've twisted all this bullshit in their minds and can walk around as if they're
above it.
Women, like we call them winos. We call them women in name only. They're winos. They are not women who support other women. It's bullshit.
True. It's true, and it's all, I believe, all trickles down from the patriarchy, because women just being conditioned into us, and we interpret it how we interpret it, and that's all on them. But I'm like, this belief that you have to play with the boys, you have to be like a man to play with them. You got to get in the room with the men or the boys to do, there's only room for a few of us at the top. And when you get up there, you have to just like be one of the guys and be one of the guys. And do not confuse this for me making excuses for them. But I think that this behavior, it's like when you see Black supporters of Trump, or female, like you just said, women supporters of Trump,
or I'm gay,
like, you are going against everything that you even like are in this world, and you think that this person, because if you want to attach it's proximity to power, I think. And it's just like this mental thing that we're all, that just centuries of patriarchy and racism and all of that just like brings us here.
Yeah, it's like their ticket to any sort of power, any sort of privilege.
Proximity to, that's so many white women too. That's like our main thing.
I mean,
as like, you know, it's just like, oh, staying quiet or having a huge part in, you know, when schools were being, when desegregation was a thing, like white women were a massive hindrance to that whole thing, because like, not my babies, not my, but just wanting to stand beside the white men that that run their lives, you know?
Yeah, I feel like, I know there's a lot of like on TikTok of women that were pro-life and now they're pro-choice, and they, you know, they're no longer fundamentalist Christians. Like they're just talking about like the ways to properly kind of communicate to pro-lifers. But most of like what she was saying was just like, you know, it's of what they say is just like, you know, it's just kind of easier to be, you know, to let my husband take care of everything. I don't have to worry about it. He's got me, so it doesn't matter. So they don't mind being a homemaker and taking care of the kids. They don't mind. So I feel like this regression is being painted as some sort of like I don't know, privilege or something better than what it is now.
Painted as like progression.
Yeah.
Like we're actually regressing, but it's like, it's 2022. I should be. It's like you use, it's reverse psychology almost.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean,
I've seen some weird reels. I mean, I see them on Instagram, but I think they're from TikTok. But it almost seems like there's this trend of like selling this lifestyle of having like 7 or 8 kids. Like, have you seen these ones where it's like, and they're all wearing like similar colors, like they're all like beige and blue, and
oh my God,
there's like they're all lined up in order, and the mom's like, oops, she turns aside, she's pregnant again, and the dad always has a beard, and Lord knows, but like there's like this, and they become like these famous TikTokers because they show their video of like beep boop boop cute kids all day. Who the hell can afford that, by the way?
Who can afford that?
One kid,
it sounds like a nightmare.
6. Yeah. And look, honey, she's drinking at night and has an internet boyfriend. Like, it's not a thing.
Has
like,
an internet boyfriend.
There's like no way that this is so real.
Wait, have you heard of
happy?
I mean, this is sort of a tangent.
Her poor vagina, first of all.
That's why I'm like, you've been pregnant for a decade. This can't be good.
No more.
No.
I was gonna say, like, this might be a little bit of a
but
tangent,
it's because of the
center cannot hold. I mean,
no.
And it's like because it's we don't use birth control, so this is our natural family planning / no birth control. This is what keeps happening, and we're just gonna keep dressing them up.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
my God.
have you seen the video? I don't know if this is what you saw, but this is just fun. Of Mormon mom talk. Do you know about Mormon mom talk?
No.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
quickly go over it, but it's kind of like what you said. So there were these groups of women who were in Utah, and they're young. They're like, they have to be 20s with like kids that are like, I feel like, or older, like 8, or you know what I mean. And they're gorgeous and young, and they just make TikToks dancing with their multiple kids, and they're a huge friend group, and they were just a thing on TikTok. Look at these beautiful white Mormon families, and like there's all.
God.
But it came out because like all of a sudden this girl just like, you know, left the group and was making TikToks about how she was like kicked out of the group, and we're like, why?
TikTok.
And she got on live and was talking about how all of these parents, because they're all friends, have been fucking each other. And, well, this is the thing. They've been not fucking, but they do everything but fucking and but fucking.
I mean,
you know what I mean? But like, but in front of each other, it's like a swinging thing where they all kind of like hook up in front of each other. But what she did was catch feelings for one of the other husbands and vice versa, and they did their own thing. So now, anyway, I'm like, that's what's going on. That is what's going on.
I mean, I think I had this theory with a friend of mine a couple months ago. She was telling me a story about one of her friends and messing around or whatever. And I'm like, is everybody just fucking everybody else? And she's like, yes, Hillary, yes, everybody's fucking everybody. I'm like, this is insane to me.
I mean,
but like
especially
on
the
TikTok,
repressed.
These Mormon women should put that on TikTok. That's more interesting than them dance with their damn kids. I want to see the swinging videos.
She's never been more popular than she is now, this girl.
Course.
And how many of these kids have the same dad?
Yeah,
right.
But I'm just like,
over there.
And the thing is, like, this is what bothers me is that that creates this right now, which is all of us, like, you know, like making fun, because I'm fully on board. It's like, that's fucked up. Like, what is happening? But here we are talking about women who are suppressed, or they're suppressing these sides of themselves. And it creates, because, I don't know how I'm trying to say this, because we're so like polar opposite and polarized, and like there's so extreme, like Mormonism and this and that, and pro-life, pro-choice. Then when you find out, oh, there's a loophole in your thing, and all we do is just point fingers and make fun and laugh because it's funny and it's ridiculous. But instead it's like, okay, so you all like are sexual beings as well. Turns
Right.
out you're not. Like, we're all the same, but we just are acting like we're not. I mean, we're not. Clearly we're not. But do you know what I'm trying to say? I articulated it poorly.
They're suppressed and pointing fingers at us. We're not suppressed and just living our lives.
Right.
And they want to judge us. Meanwhile, they're doing the same freaking thing behind closed doors.
Right.
And like, I feel very judgmental towards them because of all these things. So here we are all just judging them for, of course we're like, well, this is a valid reason because I'm here doing it too. But that's all it creates, is just extra judgment from both sides, when we could just be like, can we just live?
Yeah,
like,
let people live their lives. Absolutely.
Right.
I
But
know.
it's that religious issue that of pushing their ideology, and not specifically talking about LDS, but just that
In
Christian
general.
ideology that's being pushed in our schools, that's being pushed everywhere. And go do you. If that's the life you want to live, like, right on. But don't expect the rest of us to have to fall in line to what your beliefs are. And this whole, these conversations that we're hearing, that in the state of Florida, there was a training session on the new civics program that they're doing. And a lot of it, they were told that there's like separation of church and state isn't a thing, So these are the things that are coming through in the different states and the different, cities and school boards in our country. And that's the frightening thing to me. Like, when is it going to stop? Like, how far is it going to go?
It's like, I said, we're not a part of your book club. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, I'm not a part of your book club. I can't believe in the same thing. I'm sorry. Like, your belief, you can't force me to believe something, and then you can't force me to make actions based on your own beliefs. You have to understand. We have to understand that their educational system, especially if they are religious, I feel like has to be stunted, because they're only looking at life in a certain way, and their education is going to be morphed in a certain way. Whatever their parents want them to learn is what they're going to learn. So they don't really know the world and how the world works. And I just feel like if they're so stunted there, they're just stunted everywhere else. And that's why they want to be so sexually free.
Yeah.
No, behind closed doors. Because they're like, to me, they're like children. It's like when you say don't touch the hot stove, they're going to want to actually touch that stove. So I just feel like it's education. It's like, I don't know.
It's all education, I think. Well, and also I wanted to ask you, Tina, because I haven't been in school in a long time, and my mom hasn't been a teacher for a while now. And so, speaking of separating church and state, is the Pledge of Allegiance still said?
So in Florida, the Pledge of Allegiance is still said. And as of now, like, students can choose whether or not they stand for the pledge. Like, you cannot make a student stand up for the pledge.
But they have to say one nation under God.
If they choose to say it. So like in high school, I don't, the pledge comes on, like someone will come over the speaker, and if they want to stand up and say the pledge, they can. If they don't, like, I don't direct them in any way, because that's their choice.
Yeah.
But the other thing in the state of Florida that passed, and it was started last school year, was it was originally 2 minutes of prayer, but then that got taken to court. So they're not allowed to say 2 minutes of prayer. So it's a 2-minute moment of silence. So every day, and the whole bell schedule is messed up by this stupid 2 minutes, because they got to build the 2 minutes in the schedule. Is they're like, oh, good morning, we are now going to observe our 2 minutes of moment of silence. And then the kids are on their phone, and, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get class started. And then you're not allowed to talk, as a teacher. I cannot do any instruction during those 2 minutes. I can't, start the do now or whatever activity we're going to start the day with. And then they come on, okay, thank you for observing the 2 minutes of silence. And then, like, it's over. But
So
that's
the
like
kids
the
aren't
start.
even doing it.
This is like, no, the kids don't. No, these kids aren't praying. They're like, oh, 2 more minutes on TikTok. That's what they're doing. They don't.
Exactly.
It's so stupid.
When people,
but now that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of that coach, to say a prayer at the sidelines, that has
Oh,
opened the door to allow educators to
pray.
in that 2 minutes of prayer, if they want to say, okay, guys, let's pray, right? I swear to God, if I said this to Hillary, if this happens in my school, I'm going to do the little Wiccan prayer. I'm going to get a black
Yes.
candle. I'm going to get a voodoo
Yes.
doll. And I'm going to say, okay, well, what are we doing for 2 minutes today? And
Right.
see what happens. Because
Hail
people will
Satan.
be outraged.
The little
Yeah.
doll, you're like, this is DeSantis.
Yeah.
Yeah, always DeSantis.
I mean, Florida is
Oh
so
my
Florida's so interesting to me because it used to be like a purple state, right? Like it was a, but I mean, how did this happen? Because like I don't see it ever. It has to be just a full blown red state now. I don't even see it ever going back to purple. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean,
I
it's
think
just
that we're
so
a
bizarre.
full-blown red state.
Yeah,
I think we're a full-blown red state. And I can say that with a lot of confidence because we do a lot of work for the party or within the party in some capacity, like in caucus work and club work. I can tell you that there is no Florida Democratic Party. It does not exist. They like to
Wow.
pretend like they do, but there's nothing here. They have no plan. They've never had a plan. We've lost this state slowly over the last 30 years. You know, we longingly look at Georgia being able to flip blue like 2 years ago. And they're like, Florida's next. I'm like, do you have any idea the 20 years of hard work that this group of 8 Black women did in that state
yeah.
to flip it blue? It was the field work, knocking on doors, going into communities of there's 8 women in particular whose organizations flipped that state. Had nothing to do with the party there either. But it's a plan. It's a long
decades-long plan.
It's a lot of losses, you know, but it's being very strategic and particular about what seats you're going to try to flip to try to get the House or the Senate there.
Mm-hmm.
It's building a bench of candidates so that you know who you're going to run when those seats open up.
Yes.
It's people who've been in power for a long time getting the hell out of the way because we're now should be progressive and saying progressive things, and it takes a lot of money.
Yeah.
And Ron DeSantis, in the last 4 years as sitting as governor, has built a war chest of, I think, upwards of $300 million with his PAC. And the Florida Democratic Party in the first quarter raised $2 million. We are so far behind. We're never going to catch up with him. I wish the best of luck to any person running for governor here. I mean, I want Nikki Fried, but I don't know I don't know who can beat. I don't think anybody can beat him. I think he's going to be our next president. So y'all can have fun with that too.
Please don't freak
now
me
you all
out.
can know how much fun we have as,
Oh my
as
God.
our leader.
I mean,
Well, and on the national level, the National Democratic Party has written off Florida now.
They're not giving any money to Florida.
No money's coming in. They're just like, oh, well, it's a waste of our time.
we lost you.
So so we're like floundering with no support.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I keep thinking about Endgame, and I just don't understand. I mean, DeSantis is such a force, and everything. I mean, is it that hard? I feel like it's like so easy to be a Republican candidate and so hard to be a Democratic one. And I feel like because it's just so easy to appeal to like people that aren't that smart, you know what I mean? That like don't know how to vote for their interests. You know what I mean? Like these are blue collar people, you know what I mean? That will not vote for the life of them for their best interest.
I feel like it's a thing of uniting over. If you unite over something, our problem on the left as a whole, I think, is we are too fragmented. There's too many things that we're trying to fix because everything's fucked up. So we get caught up in the minutia of things that are like, you know, well, if you're fighting, like I got into a whole thing online years ago, like gay man that I know who is like my parents' age, and I was promoting Black Lives Matter, and he went off I've like known him, and he was the chef in my sorority house in college. But I was like good with him for years, and then he went off in the comments about what right do you have to fight for Black lives when I was out in the streets protesting for my own rights, basically saying, why are you fighting for Black lives? You're not Black or gay, and I've been fighting for gay lives. Like pitted it against and unfollowed me, and I was like, what just happened? Because and so I think that epitomizes our problem. And if we could unite like the right does, it's over. They unite, they militarize themselves basically, and they just like blinders on and they go. And it's all misguided, but honestly, we need to do that because we're just like caught up in this, like,
I don't know.
okay, all these important things, and they are, and that's the problem. It's like, well, trans lives matter, Black lives matter. We gotta get on abortion now. We gotta get on this, but
There's so many.
But if you're fighting for that, then we just get caught up, and then we start arguing over, like, what sign is on the bathroom door, which is important, but the other side is organizing and getting shit done. And I saying that kind of makes me cringe because it could be taken out of context.
No,
but like these are important
literally,
things.
I just said something the other day. I was when Roe was overturned, the day it was overturned, I was like, what have we been talking about? And I was like, oh, pronouns. Like,
Yes.
I guess we should really worry about people's pronouns, but who the fuck? I guess I should worry about the baby I don't want being born and what pronouns they're going to use, because who gives a fuck? Like, why was that? I mean, I understand it. Tell me your pronouns. I will respect them. But also, can we also move on to the fact that women in this country and anyone else with a uterus just lost their fucking rights?
Yes.
Like, I just kept thinking about these things that we've been fighting for or fighting over. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Important,
exactly.
But at this point, fucking ridiculous.
Important, and that's the problem. Why we can't even, I mean, we are now, thankfully, but like in big public arena, you can't even say that because it's like, you're disrespecting, you're transphobe. No, I'll call or like the pronoun thing is a huge thing. And that, I was just having that conversation the other day with someone too. I was like, I want to respect I will call you whatever you want me to call you. Like, I want people to live life the way they want to live. And we're over here arguing about this, and someone made a mistake or didn't know that, and it's just, we just get stuck here. Mm-hmm. And then laws are being reversed, like in our faces. And I just feel very much like I used to run the social media for White People for Black Lives in LA. And when I first joined, I thought it was ironic. There's like there's the Black Lives Matter meetings, which white people can go to, anyone can go to. But then there's White People for Black Lives, which is a separate group. And I was like, this is segregated. But then obviously they're like, there's different work. Black people don't need to sit in the meetings while white people grapple with their white guilt. Like, there's different reasons, and it all made sense. But going to those meetings, the White People for Black Lives meetings, and some of the best people I know, I believe in the work, all that aside, I go in, we put our sticker on with our pronouns, and then we sit in a circle. And for the first 20 minutes of an hour and a half long meeting, it is, now we go around, we say our pronouns, and then if someone's misgendered, then it's a whole like, well, I just didn't. And then it's, does anybody, I want everyone to feel comfortable here. We know that some people are differently abled, and I kid you not, it takes up 30 minutes of usually an hour meeting, but like an hour and a half meeting, gone. And people then are, and I'm literally like, this does not happen in the Black Lives Matter meetings because they're being murdered. So we're over here talking about, like, can you call me this? Is everyone comfortable? If you need to eat, you can step outside. If it's okay, what are we doing? Yeah. And that's the problem to me. Well, I just went off on a whole rant, but like, I've been holding that in.
But I think we can do both. We can respect pronouns and fight for abortion rights, except, like, how long have we been ringing this fucking bell now? 30 years.
Yes.
We knew this was coming. Why? You know what I mean? It just seems ridiculous to me.
Well, it does. I don't know. I was going to say, I feel like it's hard, right? Like, do you know who Jordan Peterson is?
Yeah, Jordan Peterson. Yeah, I've heard of him. Yes.
Yeah. I don't. Who's that?
Okay, he's like a fucking, thinker. That's a stupid way to put it.
Leader.
Thought leader. Yeah, something like that. He's a psychiatrist, but like, he'll like give speeches, and he gives really good think pieces and shit like that. But he's just gone over to the right completely. And he used to be on this podcast that I really like, H3. And do you know H3?
You told me about it.
Oh yeah, okay. I forgot. I was like, wait, what? Anyway, that podcast that I like had him on once, but that was before Jordan was like super like white supremacist right wing, which he won't even say that he is now. And H3 like now it like got rid of that old episode, and it's just like, I can't believe we interviewed them. I feel really embarrassed. And Jordan Peterson tweeted at him being like, just so you know, the woke left is going to eat you just like they do me. And it's interesting because it's like, well, fuck you. Like, what does it matter? But there's something to that, right? Where it's, the woke competition of everything, like it can be really intense, because you just want to be right, you just want to be respectful, and I feel like the left, we're progressive, we want to be inclusive and all of this stuff, but we're going to fuck up. We're not going to do it right, but we want to make sure this world is better, and because we're more educated, we can recognize all the issues better. We can try and modify our language better, and we can spot. We have all these issues we want to do because we recognize them. But the right, all they recognize is God, guns, and babies. You know what I mean? That's easy. It's easy to get them to
so
vote.
Simple.
But for us, because we have so many things, because we're intelligent and we
want to make
so
the
many
world better,
people.
and we want to respect everyone, and we want everyone to participate equally.
Yes. Yeah, and we understand gender gender studies and the complexities of that. They don't care. You know what I mean?
Like, in kids in school, it's easier to unite over hatred of someone or something, or making fun of someone, than it is over like something positive. You just bond faster when you both like, oh, I hate, yeah, that girl's mean. That's just how it's faster, at least. And I think, on the left, we're trying to include and fix everything, and it's really hard to unite over that, like trying to, because there's so much. But then if you're on the other side and you're just uniting over, like, we hate this, we cut this out, there's a lot less
it's easy.
it's easier.
So it's like, what are we gonna? Oh, no, go ahead, Molly.
Well, I was gonna ask you too, do you, because we have to ask you this before, but it was like 2 years ago and things have changed. But how do you feel about, the dilemma of, do I stay in Florida and fight for my state and the people I love and where I am, or do I just ditch it?
I mean, I thought about this a lot. I've thought about it a lot. First of all, it's so effing hot here. I mean, I think I said this to my mother today, because we were in Boston last weekend, and it's like high of 80, right? You come back here, it's like 120 degrees. The sun's like this far from your head. It's like, this is where we're in the swamp. Alligators skin.
Yeah.
This is for alligators, not humans. Humans are not meant to live in Florida. That's probably why that's why we're all crazy. It's too hot. So that's one reason to leave. But how do we say? I don't know. I got to tell you, I love this state. It's my home. That's what I think of when I think of Florida. I think home. It's very unfortunate that we have, who does Eunuch Ortiz is running for a state house seat or Senate seat over on West Florida. And she has a great quote. And she said, "We live in paradise. We've just been terribly mismanaged for the last 20 years." And she's right. I mean, that's the thing, is that people come here. They want to come to Florida. It's a beautiful place to live. It's a beautiful place to visit. But, it's also dangerous if you have a uterus. It's really dangerous. It's dangerous if you're Black. It's dangerous if you're gay. Like, this is not a safe space to be. And so, raising kids here is troubling. So I have a problem. Like, I would love to leave, because, I mean, the only reason really staying is my parents are here, but I can just put them in the trunk. And then, of course, the podcast. So I'd have to.
Yeah.
We can always Zoom.
Look at this. We can do this.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel a similar way. I moved here as a young person, and I have my parents here, but my husband and I are always talking about how we would love to leave. And then it's like, well, where do we go?
I know.
That would be safe and affordable. And, Hillary's right. It's dangerous here it's dangerous for kids in classrooms here. We have DeSantis, who has said he wants to do open permitless carry is like the next thing that he wants to do. And I don't want to walk with my kids into the local grocery store and seeing people loaded up with weapons,
Permitless?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So
it doesn't matter anymore. Even people with I don't know, whatever.
It's frightening. It's frightening. And I, my parents are both from Italy, so I can get my Italian citizenship. And I've often thought, like, that would be a good exit strategy, and just go live in Europe,
That's what Alyssa's doing.
Yeah, we were just talking about that on a podcast about like where we could move. But I mean, this is my other angle on that, because I'm working on that with the Italian citizenship assistance. That's I don't know if you're working with them. Yeah. But this is the angle, and maybe you have this too. It's like, I mean, we can have an absentee vote, but there's something about having you like a physical body here to fight for the people that are not able, whether they're disabled or just don't have the financial means to move. There is something that like if all the Tinas and Hillarys left Florida, who would
Right.
be left there?
Yeah.
Like
That's
would
what they
literally
want, though, right? They
Right.
want
I
us to
know.
leave.
I know.
But I think about that too. And I think about my friends or my family that, everybody works really hard. Nobody really has a lot of time to volunteer or pay attention to candidates or know what's really going on or what something's about or whatever.
Mhm.
And I don't watch local television, but I know that there's ads being run all the time. And I still try to tell my mom, don't pay attention to that guy's ad. I know it looks good, but he's not good, But I think
Mhm.
about that too. I think about the people who have been really fighting. When I say there's no Florida Democratic Party, there are amazing Florida elected officials.
Oh
Like,
my God,
like
there are.
Senator Lauren Book and Senator Chevron Jones and Representative Michelle Rayner.
And even on the local level, we have some really incredible
amazing people who
incredible
are
people.
really fighting. And so even though there's no party, these leaders are still trying to get other Democrats
Yeah.
elected. Like they have to pick it up where the party left off.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and they fight because they know that if they're not there, a Republican can easily walk into those seats, and it would make it
Yeah.
worse. You know what I mean?
And
So
And
I
like
don't know.
you are mothers, so it's like, is that fair to your families? You know what I mean? For you to be like, well, I have to be here to make sure, because I'm thinking that way too. I don't have any kids, but it's like I'm at that age where it's like we're thinking about it, but I'm like, I don't know how to grapple with having a kid. Yes, I'm in a blue state. I understand that, but like, who knows where that'll be? You know what I mean? Like, we can get a Republican governor next election. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that it's not impossible. I just don't know if it's fair. I don't know what the right thing to do. It's
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, this is what I forgot who we were talking to, but they can pass all the laws they want. We're still going to be able to get abortions wherever we can try, right? We can fund. I donate monthly to a local one that funds women coming into the state or women that need to leave the state. Like, and also we're still going to raise our children the same way. You can tell my kids that don't say gay, but I'll tell you right now, they motherfucking say gay, and they'll say it in school if they want to. And I told my daughter, say whenever you want, and they can call me.
Yeah.
Like, we're still going to raise our children that way, and we're still going to exist. So they can
Yeah.
make all the laws they want. It's not going to stop people from knowing what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's something too, is like, sometimes you got to stay and fight for the place that you love and that you believe in. And so when I see, like, we do talk to elected officials and they have hope, and I say, where do you find hope? Because I have none. And I just want to hear, like, what do you have? What are your plans? I just want to hear a plan.
Right,
Like,
right.
where do you see us in 10 years? Like, can you give me some sort of a deadline? Like something.
I would love to
Because-
see that too.
Me too, but I know that
Yeah.
they're trying. Like, I know
They're
they're
trying.
trying. I know,
Yes.
but it is, but I don't know. I have a daughter. I have a 13-year-old daughter. This anti-abortion bill, the
Worrisome.
15 weeks scares the
And
shit out
so
of me.
many
Yeah.
people, Republicans, are coming into the state. Our population has really gone up in Florida, and it's more red than blue, and
Yeah,
it's like,
course.
Like, I really
know?
figured that like COVID was taking most of these Republicans,
Yeah,
but I guess people are
they
just
did.
moving in.
They
yeah.
took a good chunk for us. Thanks, COVID.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
seriously. But
Do you guys?
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Alyssa.
No, you.
I mean, we mentioned it briefly, and I know this is all hypothetical and prediction, but from your very close experience with DeSantis there, what do you think his chances are if he ran in 2024?
Oh, I think that he would win.
Yeah.
President? Yeah.
Yeah.
President, sorry.
I
is he
have
so
I have family in Pennsylvania that love him.
My
Yeah.
sister lives in North Carolina in Charlotte. She sent me a picture of a bumper sticker. It said DeSantis 2024. And I was like, oh, good. Yes, you guys should, please, everybody should experience this loveliness of this.
And he's
I think
more
he can beat
dangerous.
Biden. I think he can beat Biden. If Biden
He's
runs,
more dangerous.
he can
than
beat him.
He
Trump
is
ever
more
could
dangerous
be.
because he's smarter. And
Yeah.
I was listening to, I think it was on NPR, they were interviewing someone who went to high school with him and has known him and then worked with him. I don't remember who it was. But he did know him growing up, and he was like,
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
he was like, he is
Holy.
one of the smartest people I know, and he has a near photographic memory. But he was talking about even just like unrelated to politics, just how he was in school and with his projects and what his when he really is driven for something, that the smart evil people like Hitler, very intelligent. That's when it's scarier. So that's why I'm just like, that story was scary to me because they were going into just his personality traits and his um and I
They're
don't
saying
even
like
like
he was a
saying
bully
smart
and
and
he hated
intelligent is
people.
weird because I don't feel like you're smart if you believe those things, but you know what I mean. It's like he's just very his memory, his like he's very calculated. This guy was just going in, and I was and talking about even his like test scores in college, and it was scary to listen to.
And he's got this little, they like to call the liberals fascist somehow, but he's got this fascist bent to him. He's got that, what was it, the election police that he has set
Yeah.
up in Florida. He
Right.
is focusing on the universities. He's appointed someone to a big time donor of his to University of Florida board.
Yep.
He's appointed someone to the University of North Florida board, and they're going to infiltrate our universities. That's the next thing, right? Because that's the liberal, what they believe is sort of like the liberal playground or the university. So that's the next step. They are trying to plant these Moms for Liberty women in the school board. They, like you guys said earlier, it's a very calculated plan that they have.
Yeah, and he has that streak.
And on a federal level, it's frightening what he can do.
Yeah, and like the hint of what Trump had, which was like, I'm not a regular politician. I say whatever and make people mad, whatever. And it was like unheard of when, to a degree from our president when he came in. But now DeSantis has that same, like, he doesn't even pretend to be the nice guy and warm and cuddly, and he stands on that. And then people are like, especially like red states, and that's what rallied behind Trump, was just like, yeah, he doesn't give a fuck. And they're not even listening to what he's saying. You just like that he's being contrarian.
Yeah.
Right.
Or that he just is being rude.
I mean, I saw that poll recently that came out that Trump was losing, backing in the Republican Party, but DeSantis is that weird, quiet sociopath like Trump, but in like a different set of skin. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
He looks a little bit more presentable or something.
He's a politician.
Oh yeah,
doing
through
it.
and through. And the weirdest thing about him is like he doesn't care. He doesn't care if something's inappropriate. He doesn't care if it's offensive to you. He doesn't care about anything.
And that's what attracted Trump's followers. Is just based on that, where you're like, this is for a TikTok star maybe, but for the president.
Yeah.
There was a poll, I think it was CBS, like a couple days ago, that only 13% of Democrats or left-leaning people want Biden to run again. Only 13% would vote for him.
But they better have a plan. They better have a plan.
Right.
Who are they going to run? Because it can't be Kamala. Like, God bless her.
No,
it can't be Kamala.
It can't. I mean, what are they doing? Like, I don't understand like what we do at this point because we're so disjointed and they're so organized. It's
I know.
I feel like we're literally, this is Germany after World War I. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but like,
no,
it's one of those things where we're watching this methodical takeover, universities, schools, everything, and I just don't know what we.
The other thing with the university, the other law they passed, which Hillary, I think we talked about last week on the show, is the bill where faculty at public universities and students are required to fill out a survey that indicates what their political affiliation is.
How is that
so that they can have this on record, right? And why do they want that on required? So I have a little cousin, he's at UF, and he's like, I'm going to just put down Republican. I'm like, yeah, you need to spread the word amongst the kids to just bullshit that survey.
Yeah.
Because why would anyone answer it honestly?
Right.
And then I saw another thing where Moms for Liberty are having these seminars to learn how to track teachers' social media, track school board members' social media, and elected officials, because they want that information.
So in case you go to like a drag show, they can
Or exactly you post something, you say something.
The PTA on steroids.
Yeah. I mean,
this is so
like,
run by Ava Hitler.
We are under surveillance.
So bad.
By morons too, like morons who think that gay people want to groom your children. That's
Right.
not even the same. We're not even the same realm of what people are attracted to. What are you talking about? Like, how
Right.
dumb are people? It's so dumb.
It's
Dumb.
so dumb.
Oh my God.
So I want to ask you guys, because for our listeners too, oh, there's a siren. Sorry if that's your podcast. I want to remind our listeners that you guys have a very, I don't know, that's annoying. Do I stop? You guys have a very incredible podcast, and I want to know what's next for it. But before we go into that, I do want to, remind listeners that you guys, you cover the dark hidden secrets of our politicians throughout history, basically in this country, and it's like the perfect marriage of true crime and politics and scandal and all the TV shows that you want to watch, but like real life and all the train wrecks that you can't take your eyes away from, but like you're also informing yourself. It's very addicting. But how do you, in the climate we've just been ranting and talking about for an hour, how do you remain active as you both are in politics and not stay discouraged? Is the podcast kind of the outlet, or is it just like all adding to the weight at this point, because you do it so well and I love it and I want people to listen. I'm just like, how do you do this?
I think for me, it definitely adds to the frustration because I mean, for the first year, I think finally Tina came into my house one time to record, and I was like, I was covering Grover Cleveland. He raped a woman and got her pregnant. A president of the United States. This is before he was president. This is when he was governor of New York, and he rapes this woman. She gets pregnant. She has the baby. She in the hospital. They come in. They take this baby away from her, put her in a loony bin, right? Lock her up and say she's crazy, right? And she never finds her baby. She comes out. A doctor was like, she's not insane. This is a thing that happened.
Yeah.
And nobody believed her, right?
Wow.
I think I did that story around when Kavanaugh was going on. So I think it's discouraging because we do these stories and it's like there's so many tones of like exactly what's happening right now still. And it's like, shit, we haven't changed. We haven't evolved. Like, just the players' names have changed. That's it. They still play on our fears and our concerns and our worries, and they take advantage of us as humans, right? Like, that's what it is. It's how can I manipulate this human to vote for me? And so most of it and what Trump did is fear, right? Right in his speech when he came down that golden escalator, he's like, Mexico is sending us their rapists and drug dealers, right? Like, it's just fear, 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 fear. And that's how you get people on your side and you get them to do their bidding for you. Look at January 6th. So I think it adds to mine. I do see hope. Like, sometimes we do good stories where it's like, holy shit, here's this woman, Emma, I forgot her last name, Tina, but she was like just this badass feminist in the like early 1900s who was just burning shit to the ground, literally burning shit. Anarchist, just burning shit to the ground. And I'm like, there's hope. There was always people like us, all of us here, who were fighting and believed in it and would speak up. So I don't know. I think it definitely, I enjoy, the best part about it is I get to sit with Tina and she makes me laugh and talks about Sopranos and we just laugh all the time. But I think it definitely, it does not give me hope.
I feel similarly because we cover, and it's all both parties, right? Like we don't just, our beginning of the show definitely highlights where we stand politically because we talk local and so people know where we stand. But when we cover the stories, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or not. Like if
you're that high up in politics, you're
shitty,
dirty enough.
Right. And even on the local level, we look at like people who've just done crazy things. The only thing I think, not the only thing, but one of the things that I think gives me hope is when we do our Little Muck episodes, because on those episodes, we are highlighting people who are actually doing good things in politics or in activism. And that kind of, we get super excited and we have one coming out this week. And that's the thing that kind of, we're like, okay, we have all of this mucky stuff. At least there's this shining light with these people that are actually trying to do something good. So that I think is the piece that helps us deal with all the crap.
Because it's like, it's this weird, I think Alyssa and I, tell me if you feel the same, Alyssa, because we choose our topics and guests obviously based on our topics that interest us, but our belief structure. And so a lot of our episodes are very like social justice and politically aimed. And I wonder if it's the same for you guys, where I'll feel like we do it because the conversation, it fuels me, and I feel the light at the end of the tunnel when I think about the bigger picture of we're having this conversation and we're sharing it and people are listening. That's where the positive comes from. And then when we're in the midst of, we're doing a solo episode on like the Don't Say Gay bill, and we finish the episode, and then we turn off the camera and we're just like like fuming, and just like, I'm sure it's the same for you guys, where it's like, okay, in the moment it adds to the, the daily aspect of it adds to the weight sometimes, but then I try to step back and be like, okay, we're having these conversations, and what you guys are doing, what the bigger picture versus the small day to day.
We record on Saturday morning. So Friday, when Roe was overturned on a Friday, Tina came to my house very early. I think it was 8:00 in the morning on Saturday. And she had been crying, and we had both been crying. Like, it was just fucking the worst 24 hours already. And she said, I don't want to do my story. And I was like, I don't want to do my story either. And she's like, let's just talk about Roe. And I said, okay. And so we recorded for an hour, talked about how we were feeling, how we got here. We had covered it. We had a whole episode that I think it's called See You in Hell. And I did pre-Roe and Tina did post-Roe. What has happened in this country? Like, how did we get there to Roe? And what happened? How Tina did, like, basically how they've been chipping away to get to where that, because it was right after the leak, I think. So, it does help to sit for an hour and talk about it. And, I don't know. I don't know if we've ever at some point in this podcast made some people think about maybe a little bit differently about what they're doing or how they could step up. I mean, that's all we ever do is like, if you need an abortion, send us an email. If you want to know where to send money in your state, let us know. We will help you. Like, just tell us what you need to, or what you want to do, and we will figure out a way to get you to help. Like, just do something. Just do something. Because and sitting like around and not
community.
Not saying anything, or all these years, these women who don't want to post on social media like their political thoughts. It's time. Like, that's over. That's over. If you support women, your auntie over in freaking Alabama should know that. Like, she should read on your Facebook that you're right.
And if she unfriends you, oh well. Like, who cares?
Fuck off.
If
like,
she
you don't need
follow
that.
You.
But
like,
maybe she'll read it and say, oh, I'm thinking about this the wrong way. Like, let me call my niece and find out what's the deal. Like, I think that those are conversations. Like, we really need to put it out there that we support these things.
That's the thing. I'm sick of people. I'm sick of hearing, and it was especially, I went off on some like 15-minute, when IGTV was a thing, a rant during George Floyd with like, I had so many people that I was seeing like either not saying anything after the black square went up, or they just I had a couple one-on-one conversations with friends, and it was like, well, just want to wait until we have the resources to really do something. Like, one of my friends was like, she's talking about her and her husband. She's like, well, he hasn't really said anything yet because he just kind of wants to wait until he has enough money to like make the change that he wants. And I'm like, oh, what? So a white man isn't going to say anything about Black lives right now because he doesn't have enough money, but he's climbing the corporate ladder as a white man. And then when he gets enough money, he can then what? Make an Instagram post? I'm very confused. And that's kind of with all these issues. Like you said, this is not, we cannot, if anyone is still being quiet, which people are, it's not okay. It's detrimental, and it's really fucked up.
And I think I'm like so dumbfounded about how silent people were. Like, we talked about this before, after Roe. Like, there were no black boxes. There's, you know what I mean? Like, the protests aren't as vigorous as they were in 2020. And I'm like, wow, we are so desensitized.
We're beaten down.
Shootings, we are beaten down. And that's what makes me scared. But I will say, this is kind of a tangent because I don't want to keep you guys all night. I know you guys are on the East Coast. But again, I want to bring about, like, yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel when we have community like we have here, and talking with you ladies is definitely like makes me feel positive, because there's like-minded smart women that are like ready to, roll up their sleeves. But like what your podcast does is so fun. But I wanted to ask you, did you guys hear of United States of Messy?
Okay, tell me about this.
Okay, I need to send you this Instagram. So it is this new. It's like do you know what Demois is like basically like people will send in blinds, which is just like stories about celebrities. Then it's to this like publication called Demois, and it's like anonymous. But there's this is called United States of Messy, which is kind of like that, where people who work with all of these politicians send in all of their stories about these like so many, like Amy Klobuchar, like all of these different, like doesn't matter what your political affiliation is, like you are getting destroyed.
Holy
Like
shit. What is this on
This,
TikTok?
yeah,
or
this-
on Instagram. I'm gonna send it to you because
Instagram,
this
okay.
is gonna be great, like inspiration. I feel like for
Well, that's so
the
funny
mug.
because one of our episodes, I cannot remember the number right now. I covered Troy something and Cindy Gamrett in
Oh.
Michigan. They were two Tea Party House members who ended up having an affair. They got caught. It was like
Ugh.
the way that he spun it was the mucky, messy part. So we put this episode out, and like a year later, we got a message on our Facebook, and he's like, "I'm one of the guys in your story. Like I just like searched this name, like because I worked. It was like 15 years ago." And he's like, I searched my old boss's name and I found your podcast. It's so funny. It's so good. He's like, and it's so weird because you're telling this story that like I was in the middle of. And we went back and forth for a little bit about it. And I was like, bro, come on the podcast. Like,
that
come
would
on.
be so fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I
We have
love
to
it.
follow
I
up
would
with
love
him.
that. Oh, I would love
Yeah, you
stories
guys
like
should.
that. I want to be United States of Messy.
Yeah.
We are.
This is
We
what I do. You are.
are.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
guys
yeah.
are United States of a mucky.
Yes.
Yeah. send us your stories.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we can't thank you enough for being
Aw.
on again. Like we
Yeah, thank you
benefit so
guys.
much from hearing your points of view, and I'm sure we'll have you on again if you allow.
Oh my God.
Um,
Anytime.
anytime.
when there's
Time.
like latest and maybe before the election, even though it might be a lot, but like we can probably dissect it right before or
Mhm.
after or whoever. But thank
Oh.
you.
Just very grateful. And
Yeah.
honestly, this is like these moments, having these conversations, is the light right now. You know, it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, none of us are alone. They're just making
Yeah.
it look like that, but we're not.
No.
And so thank
And
you.
there's
for
more of
coming
us
on.
than of them. You
Yeah,
know?
True.
There's more of
There
us doing
are.
the
There are.
fighting.
We
so
we
we'll
just
be okay.
we just got to
figure it out.
galvanize, build the
Yeah.
army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
guys.
thank you, thank you.
Good night.
Oh my God. That was
So
cathartic.
good.
That
I know.
that I needed to have that conversation.
We're just saying, like, we feel like they're like our big sisters. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
It's
from
like
across
there
the
are
country.
East Coast, like the East Coast big sister version of us, and all four of us are on here basically.
Yeah.
Like we hit record, but we're basically just having a conversation and ranting. And then
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, we're recording.
It's our favorite. It's our favorite. Interviews when they flow so naturally, and
Mhm.
like I just love talking to them. But if you want to check them out, if you aren't already, please at the Muck Podcast on Instagram. The Muck Podcast, wherever you find your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. And they're also on Patreon. So hook them up, and please visit the Muck Podcast so you can get all of their info,
.com.
their podcasts. Yep. They're the best. We love supporting them.
Yeah, for
they're so
sure.
great.
And we are shouting out, as always and forever, Planned Parenthood, National Network of Abortion Funds, and the Trevor Project in light of this whole conversation and everybody that's being, threatened
Yeah.
in major ways in this country. And so, yeah, shout out to that. We also have, if you listen to our other episodes, we have the breakdown of what each of these organizations do, but it's in our show notes.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
follow us on IG and Twitter at the SOS Pod. We're on any platform, wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google. We have a Patreon, and you can be a member for $3 a month, $7 a month, or $11. It really helps us out. We're building this community slowly but surely, and it's a beautiful one. So please join. And we are on YouTube if you want to see our faces. Oh,
Yes.
everybody should get on YouTube right now because Alyssa's shirt.
Oh, right. I forgot.
Yeah.
It's a
Let's
great
all
shirt.
describe. Will you
I
read it?
got
'Cause
on
it's
an
backwards
Etsy.
to me. Oh, no, it's not. Haha. Vasectomies prevent abortions. Regulate your dick. And Alyssa, where can we find this and where do the funds go?
You can find it on Etsy, and 10% of the proceeds go to support RAIN, and it is a really, really it's a great nonprofit to support. But whatever you support, I mean, please, like RAIN, Planned Parenthood, National Network of Abortion Funds, like everyone deserves like $1, whatever you can spare.
Yeah.
But
the shirts
shirt is
need
just
to be worn.
This short is fun.
Oh my God, if it was a 2-piece set and they had shorts that said that on the.
Oh my God, yeah. Or I can find like biker shorts that are like kind of this color. But anyway, it's a really one of my favorite new shirts that I got.
Yes,
I recommend you guys getting it.
So I'm Molly Cottrell,
I'm Melissa Rosano.
and here's to turning major meltdowns
Into mini magic.